Hello, hello, welcome. All right, so tonight kicking us off, we have Ava Murray. She is joining us remotely from Germany. I think she's in Germany today. She is 5 hours ahead of us, so she's at 11 p.m. at her time. So that's strong working. So we'll thank her in a little bit for that. We have our sponsors tonight, Snowflake, who brought pizza for us. And I know I'm working with some of you in the room. I know Access Financial's here and a few others that are working with Snowflake already. He's going to talk a little bit about that and how that can work with Tableau. And then Kevin is going to join us, present for us on the new dashboard actions. If you're not familiar with our TUG admins, we have Matt, Alex, and Rico are not here tonight, at least not yet. Bruce here up front. Can you raise your hand there, Bruce? And Craig is not here. Kevin up front has joined our admin team to help this year. And all their information, they're all online there, myself as well. If you have any questions, you can use my Gmail down there or Data Plus Science, either one. Feel free to ping me. We have all converted over to Splash now. Splash is the user group page. Just a reminder, last I saw there was 160 some registered on Splash. When I took out the duplicates, it was like 120. So we still have a ways to go to get everybody on there. So if you have not registered on that page, you'll need to do that to get your emails for future events. We will try to, we have not yet ported CincyTug.com over to that, but CincyTug.com will hopefully point to that page so you can just go to that page. That's what it looks like. You hit the subscribe button right there, and you can see the upcoming events down at the bottom. We're targeting the next one probably for early May. Don't know where yet or when. And because word clouds are terrible, I thought I'd make one for the TUG. So there's all the companies, and we have big group from UC, Procter & Gamble, Great American. Those are the big ones. Fifth Third, obviously. A lot of you here tonight, GE, and so on. Cincy Tug, that's the domain, so that will point to our new page. And if you have any questions, send it to my email. If you are not getting emails, a couple of you have already emailed me, but please send me an email and I'll make sure you're on that Splash list. Somebody said they weren't getting emails, and when I looked on the Splash list, they weren't there, and so they registered yesterday. Upcoming events, Analytics Summit coming up is the big one, April 1st to the 3rd, hosted by UC. We have advanced Tableau training for the first time. We have machine learning with R, Power BI, Big Data, Hadoop, and Spark. Then we have another intro to Tableau in May and another advanced Tableau, I guess, June 6th to 7th. I hope those dates are right, Larry. Something like that. And Women in Analytics this week. If you have not registered, I think you can still register. At least you. I think it's full. Okay, well, it's sold out. So that's too bad if you didn't get on the list. But that is Thursday, Friday in Columbus. That is an awesome event. If you did not get registered this year, you should definitely register next year. Their first event was last year, and they had like 500 people. And this year they moved it to 2 days. Great speakers, great conference. Definitely check it out. And it's at the Convention Center in Columbus, so right up the street, 100 miles away, right? Chart Chat is also this Thursday. I'll be hosting it remotely from Women in Analytics Conference. And then the Analytics Summit that I mentioned, I don't have a date for the next TUG, but it's looking like the first or second week of May, maybe. And with that, our speakers tonight, I have Ava, who is the Tableau Evangelist at Exasol and one of the 30 Tableau Zen Masters, two-time Tableau Zen Master, I believe. She's now writing for Forbes magazine. Great series that she's doing on that you should definitely check out. She's also a triathlete. I'll let her talk more about herself and explain Exasol and what she does. Ryan Morris is with us from Snowflake. He's in the back. Raise your hand back there. And Kevin up front here. Again, I'll let them introduce themselves. But Kevin, he probably won't tell you this, but he is one of the top 5 in the Women in Analytics Data Viz competition this Thursday. So he gets to show off his viz all day on Thursday, and then they vote, all the attendees at the conference, like the 500 people vote for the best viz, and so he's up for that competition. So that is all I have. I'm going to get out of here, turn this back on, and stop sharing my screen. And we should now see Ava.
Hello.
And hopefully we can hear you. I'm going to turn my mic off. Do you want to say hello?
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but I'm going to turn my mic off and camera and let you take over.
Okay.
And you can go ahead and share your screen whenever.
Thank you for the introduction, Jeff. And hello, everyone. I can't see you, but hopefully you can see me. And let me just quickly set up the screen share. Okay. Okay. So growing with data and growing your data is what I've titled my presentation today. And it's going to be about the Tableau community, how it can help you become a better data analyst or analyst in general, but also how you can make the most out of the community. And a couple of words about myself. Jeff has already mentioned it. My name is Eva Murray. I work for Exasol. I'm based in Nuremberg in Germany. I'm currently coming to you from a pretty plain hotel room, as you can probably see in the background, in Munich. There's a data festival going on tomorrow and the day after where we're a sponsor as well. You can find me on Twitter at TryMyData and websites. So trymydata.com is my blog, exasol.com is our company website, and then MakeoverMonday.co.uk is the website for Makeover Monday. Now, I would love to ask who knows about Makeover Monday. Show of hands, you can all wave your hands around. Maybe Jeff can have a quick look around the room. Hopefully some of you have heard of it already. I'm going to go through a few things in my presentation. I've got 4 different parts that I want to cover, including a live demo. And what I want to start with is building your skills. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with the community initiatives that are out there. But if you aren't, or if you want to know more, I'm going to start introducing some of those. So these community initiatives or projects can help you build your technical Tableau skills, but also your skills as an analyst, those soft skills that you need when you work with stakeholders. So a few words on these initiatives. The first one I'm going to mention, of course, is Makeover Monday. And I'm going to go into a bit more detail around Makeover Monday in a few minutes. So I might just skip that now and move on to the next one. There is also Workout Wednesday. We do like alliterations in this community. Workout Wednesday is, so Makeover Monday is focused on visualization best practices, using different topics every week, whereas Workout Wednesday really focuses on technical Tableau skills, where the idea is you get an image of a chart and you have to rebuild it without any instructions, and it's typically not easy. Then there is Sports vs. Sunday, which is focused really on the topic of sports. So the other two are kind of, I don't know, topic agnostic, or they have mixed topics, but Sports vs. Sunday is about sports and is run in the community as well. Then there's Viz for Social Good, which focuses on supporting nonprofit organizations that need or want to crowdsource skills from the community. They want to highlight certain topics, be it endangered species, be it women's health issues or poverty, things like that. So there are different nonprofits that work with Chloe Zeng from the community on this. And she reaches out to the community, gives everyone the chance to build a viz, showcase their viz, and then there's some winners or favorites announced each time. And then the last one I'm going to mention here, I'm sure there are more, but these are the ones that I guess are most well known, is Project Health Viz. And this is something focused on healthcare data. This is run by Lindsay Betzendale. Okay, so let's talk about Makeover Monday. Makeover Monday is something that's very close to my heart. It's something I care greatly about. It's a project that I joined in 2017. So now I'm in my 3rd year. For the last 2 years and a bit, I ran this project together with Indy Kriebel, who's now taking a bit of a back seat, taking a bit of a break. Our mission is to improve how we visualize and analyze data one chart at a time. And the way this project works is that we provide a different data set every single week, different topic, together with a visualization. And typically this visualization is in need of a makeover. So there's very often no best practices to be found. They are poor visualizations in some ways. Sometimes they're good, but I would say 80% of the time they're pretty bad. We put the visualization out there together with the data and typically an article that it comes with. And then we ask the community to improve this visualization. So take the same data, build a better chart is the short of it. And it's really inspiring to see what the community comes up with week after week. This week, for example, we're talking about the perception that's out there in G7 countries around whether men and women are equally suited for leadership positions. The week before, the topic was Philadelphia real estate. We have a bunch of random topics. We had the flight paths of turkey vultures. We had political topics, sports topics. So it's very mixed. Every week is a different one. We're trying to keep it very, keep up a lot of variety in there to make sure people are interested and engaged. But also, aside from doing something different each week, there's also a new topic to learn about. And like I said, typically the data and the viz come together with an article, like, for example, a news article. So how it works, there's a weekly rhythm to it that we followed, and this routine just makes sure that we can keep this project running at the level that we do. So on a Sunday, we release the data because not everyone can actually get to it during the week. Some people can't do it on a weekday, can't do it while they're at work. So we release it on a Sunday because some people find the Sunday afternoon Tableau session quite relaxing. The most activity really happens on Mondays and Tuesdays when people, they get the data set, they do some analysis, they build some visualizations, they put it together in a dashboard, publish it and submit it. We have a submit form so that we can keep track a little bit of the participation, but mainly the submission happens on Twitter with the hashtag MakeoverMonday, as you can see in the top right corner. That's how we keep seeing what's going out there. This is how you can showcase your work. On a Wednesday, we typically have a webinar called it's called Viz Review. So we have a hashtag MMViz Review. And in this webinar, and maybe Kevin can later on share his thoughts on it as well, because he's watched it in the past. In this webinar, we give feedback. Well, now it's me giving feedback by myself. So you submit a viz with this hashtag, and on a Wednesday, I go through the Twitter feed for this hashtag, and I go one viz after the other, and I provide my comments. So the comments focus on design, storytelling, analyses, color choices, etc. So anything that kind of stands out to me. It could be typos, it could be additional spaces between words, like whatever stands out to me. And the idea is to really give people a chance to get some feedback and then to iterate on their work and submit a new version or an updated version, and it helps them to learn. It's not for everyone because, quite frankly, it can be hard to take feedback, right? I'm being diplomatic. I think I'm being constructive, but at the same time, it's still putting your work out there for critique. So we do tend to see a lot of people actually dialing in and just watching and listening rather than submitting their own work. And that's fine as well, because it still is an opportunity for them to learn. What we found is that most people who participate, they give us at some point the feedback that it's really helped them grow their skills. And it's a much easier way for me to give feedback, because writing all my feedback in tweets will take up a lot of time. This webinar is 75 minutes. It's very condensed, and I can get my point across much more easily when I can also use my voice, the tone of my voice, maybe make some jokes, show things on the screen rather than just writing 280 characters. Okay, so once we've given this feedback, on Thursday, typically we review the submissions. So what's come in, what have people created? I mean, we kind of do this throughout the week, but Thursday, that's when we then also see the updated visualizations from people. On a Friday, we then publish a weekly recap with the favorites. So this includes, the links to all the relevant stuff, like the original visualization, the webinar recording, etc., but also the favorites that stood out during that week. We really want to highlight the good work that's being done. And on our website, we have a gallery that features all the weekly favorites as well. And then on Saturday, preparing the release for the next week. So just keeps going round and round in circles. And we have this every week. Depending on work schedules, because this is a project that I run on top of my day job, I do sometimes have to shuffle things around. And unfortunately, this week, there's not going to be a Viz Review. Viz Review typically happens at 4 p.m. GMT, which is, I think, noon right now for you. Then it's going to be 11 a.m. once we change our time as well. So yeah, but typically this happens on a Wednesday. So you're going to ask yourself, why should you participate? Because it sounds like quite a bit of work, and it doesn't have to be. We're quite flexible. People can put in as little or as much as they want, but there are a few reasons, so let me call those out. The first one is to practice data analysis and visualization. It's a weekly appointment with yourself to practice Tableau, practice building vizzes, building dashboards, practice certain techniques, or maybe practice your storytelling. Whatever aspect you want to improve on, you can do that. And we're perfectly fine if people say, well, instead of a makeover, I recreated the original viz because I've never tried building a radial bar chart, for example. So this is the main reason why people participate. It's to grow their skills. It's also to build your portfolio. And on the left, you see a couple of pictures of our portfolios where it's just a mix of visualizations that we publish on Tableau Public. And on the right side, a few quotes from people who say it's made a difference to their career. And we have, I believe by now, 49 is the number, people who said that participating in Makeover Monday, building the portfolio, has helped them get a new job, the job they've wanted in the Tableau world somewhere, because it means that they can show quite easily to their prospective employer what they're capable of. And I'm actually working with a colleague at the moment. We're looking for a new person to work with Tableau in our organization. And if people can show us what they can do, it's much more convincing than if I have to just keep reading the CVs and understanding what they really mean by 5 years Tableau experience. So this is a really strong point, and we always encourage people to never delete anything that they've published on Tableau Public. Don't delete the old stuff because it shows your progression. People can scroll through your entire portfolio and see how far you've come in a short amount of time. They can also see how your style has developed, and that's all testimony to your work. You can learn and get inspired. So aside from your own work, there's obviously a lot of work being published, and we typically see between 100 and 200 visualizations each week on the same data set, and no viz is the same as the other. Really, there's different people. Even if you have a tiny data set of, like this week, I think we have 8 rows, people create different things, they have different designs, different approaches, and I'm always surprised and inspired by how much creativity there is and how much variety in the visualizations. You can also learn a lot because, as you probably know from Tableau Public, you can download workbooks. So if you want to understand how someone built something, you can download it, take it apart, and rebuild it your own way. You can also make an impact. So we have done collaborations with these organizations, for example, the United Nations Action Campaign, SDG Action Campaign, PATH, Equal Measures, and others, to help them, kind of similar to the Viz for Social Good idea, to crowdsource visualizations from the community. Our project runs on a weekly schedule, so typically the involvement from people is, it's smaller, it's a much shorter time frame, but it still helps these organizations just to see how other people would approach their data, and it gives them some new ideas, new inspiration, but also access to people who they can call on if they are looking for volunteers or maybe even looking to hire people. Okay, so how do you get started with Makeover Monday? Quite simple. You go to makeovermonday.co.uk. You follow the steps on the main page. There are 6 steps to your first Makeover Monday viz, and it's all just on the main page. You can go through those. And then joining the conversation on Twitter will, in my opinion, help you see what's going on. You could even just, follow along for a couple of weeks and see who's talking to whom and who's doing what, and then just join in once you feel ready. Okay, part 2, a slight changeover. What I also discussed with Jeff ahead of time is, talking about how do you find your voice in the community. And here come a few suggestions from my side to answer the question of how can you find your place and contribute while finding the answers that you're looking for. So on the one hand, you might feel that, well, what am I actually adding here? But also, well, where can I get my questions answered? And this is the situation I was in. I always thought, well, what else can I contribute that no one else has done before? Everyone, there's going to be all these instructions out there of how to do certain things. There's going to be training videos from Tableau. What could I possibly offer? So this was a few years ago. And what I want to say up front before I go into the details is, everyone can offer something, because whether you write something or create videos, you always have the angle that you take that is different from what everyone else does. It might only be slightly different, but it could mean that someone actually understands something for the first time. It's like when I had a private math tutor in high school, and for the first time I actually understood what was going on in the classroom. I just needed someone to explain it differently. So that's where you come in. So here are some recommendations from me. One is to participate in different initiatives. I've named 5. There are others. You can start your own. The idea is just to try something out and see what's out there and see what you enjoy, especially if you don't quite know yet what area you want to go into or what direction you want to head into. And once you start participating, you might see, well, this is for me or this isn't for me. And I think that's valuable to know as well. So what are some topics that interest you? Is there a specific topic? Is it sports or healthcare? Or do you not really care what the topic is? You just want to build business. What skills do you want to develop? So do you want to go really technical into Tableau, or is it something else? Do you want to be mentored by someone? Do you want to mentor someone? Is it about design? Is it about storytelling? Do you want to do data art or really functional dashboards? And then how often do you want to engage? There is no obligation on anyone to do anything in these projects. It's really up to you. And I think you get out of it what you put in. We have people who participate every week, and we see their development. We see how quickly they grow, and it's really exciting to see that. But at the same time, we all have lives, and we have jobs and families and hobbies and other commitments. So it needs to be realistic. Otherwise, it's quite easy to lose interest quickly if you can't really fit it into your life. And then what's the most fun to you? Do you enjoy tackling really technical challenges, or do you want to really focus on the design aspects, keeping it simple, whatever it is? So finding that out helps as well. My second recommendation would be to start a blog. Now, not everyone enjoys writing, but I think for me, the process has been really helpful just to, every time I do a Makeover Monday, so every week, write a blog post about it, because I have to verbalize what I'm thinking. Quite often you think, oh, in my head that all makes sense, but how do I put it into words? It helps you track your own progress, because you'll have your blog posts and they're saved somewhere. But you can also see, what have you done in the past? This is one of the main reasons that Andy started Makeover Monday. He wanted to learn, and then when he blogged to share what he's learned, he also kind of, reaffirmed to himself what he learned, and he made it sink in much more easily. You can write down lessons learned to share with others. I personally find I do enjoy watching videos that explain things to me, but I find myself always having to pause or rewind, fast forward to get to the right point. If someone has written down a lesson with step-by-step instructions and screenshots, I can just scroll through and do things in parallel quite easily. So I find that quite helpful, and I'm sure others do as well. And obviously, writing skills are hugely valuable in the job market as well. So if you can write about technical things, that's quite easy. And again, if you're looking for a new challenge at some point, a new job or a career change, being able to point people not just to the visualizations you've built, but also to your blog where you write helps them understand how you communicate in writing. And like I said before, the written instruction and how-tos are easy to follow for people. Okay, I've got a few more. Helping others. So feedback is a big part of the social channels, the social media channels, and the projects and how they work. I think as you get more engaged, if there's something that you have expertise in, or even if you just spot something and someone asks for feedback, by all means get involved. I think it's important that the feedback is constructive and obviously polite and professional in how it comes across. But it's really valuable, and so many people look for advice. And for example, for Makeover Monday, I could never possibly talk to every single person. So if other people get involved in the discussion, I really appreciate that. Yeah, when you help others by sharing examples and tricks that have helped you, you never know who's going to say, "Oh my God, this was the golden thing. I've waited for this for all my life, but I never knew this worked this way." So that's really helpful. Now, teaching is an interesting one, and actually something that I'm going to present to another tug in a few weeks' time. It requires you to really understand what you're talking about. Now, I had a discussion today with a colleague about, teaching someone sports, even if, how do you teach a world-class athlete if you're not a world-class athlete yourself? But that's a bit different. When we teach content here, like, for example, how to build a bar chart, something quite simple, we first need to understand how to build a bar chart. And ideally, even look at the different ways that we can build a bar chart in Tableau, because there's always 3 to 5 different ways of getting there. So it shows you how much you really know. And when I became a Tableau trainer back in Australia, that was really eye-opening for me. On the one hand, yeah, there's still a lot to learn. On the other hand, well, I can actually learn these things and then communicate them to others. It helps you build your communication skills, because you need to not just think it and know it and do it yourself, but also make sure that it's understandable for others. And it really does enrich the community. Part of being a Zen master is that you're a teacher. And I think that's what really makes a huge difference is when people share their knowledge and they really get it across to others, so that they give them something of value that they can take into their own lives and careers. And lastly, observe. I think there's always value in sitting back and having a look at what's going on. And like I said, this review, our webinar, is a really good example of people just observing and sitting there and learning by just absorbing all the information that's coming their way, especially with something like Makeover Monday, where, yes, we have lots of different visualizations, but when it comes to bar charts, my feedback will probably be quite similar, or when it comes to line charts around axes and the ratios, etc. So sitting back and observing is quite a comfortable way to learn. So check out what others are doing, learn from their work and download their workbooks. Like I said before, Tableau Public, they're typically downloadable. And then being inspired and letting other people influence their work. We see a lot of that in the community. And when someone creates a tutorial, and the Flurlich brothers are great for that as well. When someone creates a tutorial for maybe a quite novel chart or some approach that no one really has seen before, we then see days, if not weeks, of people recreating that with other data sets and really putting that into practice. Okay, I should have maybe put in some transition slides here. Now, this is around finding your voice and how you can find your place in the community. It took me a little while. I think, yeah, like I said, in the beginning, I thought, what can I possibly offer? And then I just started with something, and it worked out quite well. So I encourage you that if you want, whether it's to be known for something or just to play a bigger role in your local community or your community in your organization, hopefully these tips will help you there. Now, part 3. The community is more than Twitter. And I know that not everyone is keen on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, and those kind of things. Those channels are really useful for getting involved, because there's literally constant conversation going on, but it's not the only way. I found when I moved from Australia to Germany, suddenly I was in the right time zone for these conversations, because when you live in Australia, you're awake when everyone else is basically asleep or not at work. And being in Germany means I can cover a lot of Europe, and then I can also be part of the US conversations towards the end of the day. So I really appreciate it, because I see a lot of what's going on and I've been able to connect to a lot of people. But there are also other options. So let me talk briefly about those. The first one would be the forums. And they are the place where you can find answers to all your technical questions. This is where I started when I first basically joined the community. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a community. I was a bit of a lone fighter over in Australia. Tableau wasn't big yet. I think Tableau themselves only had 5 employees. And the forums were next to this dedicated pre-sales person that I could call on any time, the place for me to find answers. And quite often my questions had already been answered. The search functionality was really great, and I could just, get answers really quickly. And that's where it started for me. Now, because I don't actually use Tableau, I use it at work, but I'm not involved in all the building of Tableau dashboards. So I don't really come across so many technical challenges, but the forums are still as good as they have been all along. And you can also get involved, of course, yourself. So you can find the answers, but you can also help others. And I know that there are quite a few people who have learned a lot of their technical skills by being involved in the forums and answering other people's questions and really getting deep into calculations and business rules and all of that to figure out how to tackle this challenge. And aside from building your technical skills, you can also then get connected with other people who are in the forums and hopefully add, whether it's Tableau user groups or the conference, you'll then be able to connect with those people in real life and meet them face to face and, even strengthen your network. Being a part of the forums and answering questions is a huge contribution to the wider community, and it's Tableau customers there, it's Tableau partners, but also users like students or, other random individuals who just need answers to their questions. So here is an option that doesn't really involve social media that might be for you. And this is the URL where you can find them. I typically just Google Tableau forum, much easier than remembering all the URLs. Okay, another one, and this is an obvious one because you're sitting at a Tableau user group right now, the Tableau user groups. They help you connect with local users. As you will know, you'll hopefully hear about some other organizations' use cases around Tableau. I always find those stories really fascinating because it's just inspiring what people do with data and with Tableau and how they transform their businesses. Hopefully you'll also every now and then see some new product features. I've been to a few London Tableau user groups, and they're great for finding out new stuff, maybe before they're super publicly known, so there's some sneak previews, but also having Zen's ambassadors and customers and partners as well, presenting new things that are coming up. And I know that some Tableau user groups also feature technical lessons and workshops that they offer to their attendees. And of course, networking, always a good one. I heard there's pizza, so that always, well, I wouldn't say pizza lubricates the conversation, but it certainly aids to stand together and eat something and share some conversations. Okay, and then Tableau Partners. So this might be an odd one in the lineup, but I think it actually should form part of it because Tableau Partners are a big part of the wider Tableau community. They, as I say, they enrich the technical and the services landscape around Tableau, because Tableau in itself, it's multiple tools now, but there's one product family. The partners add this whole rich environment that is built around it. You have services partners that offer solutions and consulting and training. You might have attended training yourself that was given by a partner. And then you have technology partners that develop complementary software that fit into different parts of the data value chain. Think of Alteryx, think of Exasol, which I'm going to talk about shortly, and others as well. So I want to highlight Exasol as a partner and give a bit of a live demo. And I'm going to start with the live demo because I think then everything will make a lot more sense. So I'm going to show you lots of data in Tableau. And here's my Tableau screen. You should all still see my screen. I'm sure I'll get a bit of a hint from Jeff if it's not showing. So you're all familiar with the Tableau user interface, I will assume. The data that I'm going to show you is medical prescriptions in the UK since 2009. And I've chosen this data set because it's actually, it's quite nice and simple for a demo to build a nice short story, but also because it's large and these medical prescriptions are, just plain drugs, is something that hopefully everyone will understand. So I'll start just at the data source point. So we have a live connection. You can see that in the top right corner. And on the left side, you see that it's connected to an Exasol database. So that's the IP address of the database. In this database, I can then select a schema called Prescriptions UK. And there are 5 different tables I can use. And I've joined 3 of those tables in Tableau. Let's have a look at how big this data set is, because I promised you lots of data. So we have 962 million records. That's what I'm going to work with. This data, for those who are interested, is sitting on a small cluster in Nuremberg. in a data center. I'm connected over Wi-Fi right now. We've had it tethered over the phone Wi-Fi, so that shouldn't really make a big impact. But the experience that I want, well, what I want to take you through is the experience for the analyst, someone who explores the data, who builds a dashboard, and then who wants to share it. And I'm going to do that right now. So we have a data set. On the left-hand side, you see dimensions and measures. And I've simplified that list simply so that it's easier to follow along, so we don't have so many fields showing. And when I explore a data set, I typically ask myself a bunch of questions, and I've put those as the chart titles, and you see them on all the different tabs. So my first question with this data set, knowing it was about drug prescriptions in the UK, was, well, what are the 15 most commonly prescribed medications? Okay, so I built a set for myself to look at the top 15 by the number of items. Then I'm going to get my items, and I'll bring in my chemical name. So these are the different medications. I'm going to sort these, and I'll just get rid of my header. And you'll probably recognize some of those names. So we have aspirin, we have paracetamol, and these are now the 50 most commonly prescribed medications. And these are the number of prescriptions across all of those years. So just so that you have an understanding of what's being shown. Okay, so I have kind of the answer to my question. Let's have another one. What's the average cost? And as you can see, I've done a little bit of pre-formatting in the different areas for different medications. I do have postcode level information, and I want to show a map because I think it's interesting. So here's England, and I have a measure called average cost. I'm going to use that on color. And this map will look quite different once we've put it in a dashboard and we interact with it. But what we can also already see is, well, there's something popping out. There's one postcode at the very bottom of the map that seems to have a huge high average cost compared to some of the others, and that's why everything else is so gray. I'll get back to that point later on, but just something to keep in mind. So okay, I've got my map, and I can hover and I can see what the average cost is per prescription in a certain postcode. Now, how do the cost and the items that were prescribed, how do they relate over time, or how do they trend over time? Let's explore that. So first one is I'm going to use a date field. Now I know that the data is at a monthly level, so let's go with that. And I'm interested in my average cost. I'm interested in the actual cost, so that's the total cost to the National Health Service. And I'm interested in the number of items. I also want to differentiate those a bit more easily. And I'm going to just do a quick tidy up to not include the zeros, and you'll soon see why. Because some of those numbers are just really large, but that's all the formatting I'm going to do in the interest of time. Okay, so I've got a bit of trend lines going on, and again, I want to get back to this chart in the interactive dashboard because I think that'll be much more interesting than looking at it individually. And lastly, I want to build a heat map that shows me the average monthly cost as well, partly because I really like heat maps. So let's have a look at that. Average costs. Okay, excellent. Now we'll put together a dashboard, and I'm a big fan of containers because they're just so neat. And I'm going to fix the size here. Let's bring in all the different charts and get rid of that container. And we'll distribute it evenly. Okay. So now, last thing to do is I'm going to use my different charts as filters. And I'm going to start with, let's say, aspirin. We all know aspirin. And we get some nice interactivity. So we had every other chart update, and we see the map looks a bit different now. There seem to be some postcodes where the average cost is higher than in others. And one explanation could be that actually we've aggregated everything at a very high level. But for the different medications, there's different dosages. So how big, how big is the prescription? And that obviously influences the price. So that is something we would need to explore further before we make some assumptions just based on this high level data. We also see some interesting trends in terms of the average cost going up and down But when we look at it, I mean, it's quite a small range from £1.20 to £1.60. So not massive increases in price. But there seems to be, the average monthly cost seems to have gone up since 2012. But at the same time, overall, it's been prescribed less for whatever reason. Maybe people started preferring other prescriptions. Now, when I explored this data, I thought, okay, what other stories are there? And I had a look. I basically just clicked at all the 15 different ones, but I had a look at atorvastatin. And I did some research because I thought, what is this massive drop? I can't explain that just with my layperson knowledge. So I went to Google and I said, what's happening with atorvastatin's prices? And this is one of the blockbuster drugs. They're so-called blockbuster drugs. Viagra is another one, in case you're curious. So Pfizer had a patent for atorvastatin, and that ran out in November 2011. And then 6 months later, the competitors pushed out generic medications, and that really made the price plummet. And you can see that on the left, in this line chart, but you can also see it in the heat map. Let me actually push that into presentation mode, where the price just suddenly plummets, and now it's really low. Another example like that. So we have the actual cost going down as well, even though the number of items prescribed is going up. Cholecalciferol is another example where we had a patent run out. So the average cost went down, but because we had such a huge increase in items, we also had an increase in the actual cost. For me, a dashboard like this is just a starting point. It shouldn't be the end result. It should be the start of a discussion. And what I actually did was I took the dashboard and I showed it to my dad. He's a doctor, and I said, what do you think? This is the first time I showed him something in Tableau. And he said, okay, but what about? And I love when things like that happen, when people really bring in their own ideas. So what he asked me about was, well, what about these certain drugs? Are they in your data set? So we explored a couple of different antipsychotic drugs. And to me, so this is not meant to be a story about my dad, but rather, here's a dashboard. I showed it to a stakeholder, and we then started having a conversation. And I sat next to him, and we explored the data together. And in the matter of a few minutes, we had explored the different prices for the different drugs that he has prescribed in the past, where he said, well, there's all these trend drugs coming in. The pharmaceutical companies want us to prescribe them, but are they really more effective than some of the generic drugs that are much cheaper and much more affordable for the system, but also for individual patients? So I'd encourage you to always use the dashboard as a starting point rather than an end point. Now, what you hopefully saw here is that interactivity was, in the dashboard. Let me quickly have a drink. My mouth is getting very dry. It's really swift. So even though we're looking back at 900+ million records every time, we get instant interaction, and we can click on things. So we can click on a postcode here as well to filter down the data. And that is something that with Exasol just works really well. So this is the experience that I want to have as an analyst. Whether I work with a really small spreadsheet of, a few thousand records, or I work with hundreds of millions or even billions of records, I expect this is how it behaves, because I want to just get on with my analysis, and I want to get on with my day and not see a spinner. So hopefully that gave you some idea as well. Now, let me jump back to these slides and just tell you a little bit of actually what's behind the technology that you saw under the hood just now. Exasol is a platform for advanced analytics, and at the core of it is a high-performance in-memory database. So that is the product, that is the software. And around it are other things like built-in data science capabilities. So you can do R, you can do Python, Lua, Java, and others directly in the database, which is really exciting. So one example I can maybe quickly sprinkle in is that we're working with a Champions League club, so soccer, and they want to get live data feeds during a match, and those data feeds come from a data provider. We use Python script to build a so-called user-defined function, and that then pulls the data from the data provider and pushes it over to Tableau, so that the data provider, they provide the data every 30 seconds, And whenever you hit F5 in Tableau, you have the latest data and all of it. So this makes it really fast. We don't need to download the data from the provider and upload it into the database. We can push it straight through with these Python-based user-defined functions. We have really flexible deployment and scalability options. So you can use Exasol in the cloud, you can use it on-premise, you can use hybrid approaches, you can have it hosted in our cloud, you can host it in your own, wherever you like. And we recognize that different organizations have different needs, and we want to be flexible so that they can have their data wherever they want to have it or wherever they need to have it. And we have a very comprehensive integration framework. So Tableau is one of the major tools that we work with from a front-end perspective, and most of our customers use Tableau either as the data viz tool or one of the data viz and BI tools. There are others as well, obviously, in the market, but also when it comes to ETL tools and other tools that are part of the data value chain, they all come through with this integration framework. Learning about the stack is one topic that I wanted to call out. So I think, Exasol aside, understanding what complementary software is out there can help you as an analyst, as a data professional, to broaden your skills. There's a lot of content online where you can learn for free. You've probably seen that with the Tableau community already. With Exasol, we have the X Academy, where you can do all of the courses for free. And for me, I see that in discussions with partners, with customers, and with prospects, more and more in analytics teams, people ask people as a team come together to make decisions, and having input from different users, end users, and power users who use these tools is really valuable. If you are or you want to become an influencer in your organization, when you learn about the entire stack, so from the origins of the data to the data visualization at the end, can be really helpful, and you can show your expertise in the whole process. So where to from here? To finish up my presentation, because I think I'm probably running out of time here. I would suggest to get involved in free community projects to build your skills. You obviously don't have to, but there are plenty out there, so there's probably something that you will enjoy. If you want to contribute and establish yourself, then find a format that works for you. And I think that last part is really important. That's why I've made it bold. It needs to work for you, because you don't want to do something that you don't enjoy and do it week after week or month after month. So whether it is doing the community project or writing technical blogs or doing really great YouTube tutorials, whatever it is, first and foremost, it needs to work for you, because if you're enjoying it, then other people will find it more helpful, because you're going to put out better content and you're going to have more fun in the process as well. Then select a channel that suits you. So be it social media, be it the forums, a user group, or other events. Maybe you want to host a data breakfast or something. Again, it needs to suit you, because then only then it's sustainable. And I think extending your skills beyond Tableau, not abandoning Tableau, but complementary skills, can help your organization to get much more out of the investments they've made into data. And with that, I'm going to leave you with a slide on how to connect with me. You can find me on LinkedIn, of course, and on Twitter, and there are my details below. So please don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to send them through, and I will make sure I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Same. Does anybody
can I show one last
have
thing?
Questions?
I just realized, is my screen still sharing or not?
Yeah, we can still see your screen.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Good. Because one thing I wanted to say is, if you want to experiment with this data set I showed in Tableau or any other large ones, you can go to exasol.com/dataviz, and you can get access to our database where we host these data sets. They're all publicly available. And we've created some TDS files that you can download for your convenience and open in Tableau and then explore different data sets. So exasol.com/dataviz, just as a last point.
Yeah, I've seen some crazy demonstrations. The new hyper extracts are great in Tableau. Better, if you've been using the TDEs for a long time, the hyper certainly beats the TDEs. but I've tapped out the hyper files in several hundred a million. I think I've gotten it up to maybe 500 to 700 million, and the hyper files just blow out. And I've seen people put in Exasol all the way up to I've seen Piedmont Health down in Atlanta has put in like 6 billion, right in there, and it's working as fast as she's working. That's pretty crazy. I mean, to be working in Tableau on, billions and billions of rows and not spinning, right? I mean, when I'm using hyper files, I'm using, a couple million rows, and sometimes I get a spinner, right? So this is really fantastic to see. I love watching that. Any questions for Ava on? Yeah, go ahead.
So for Makeover Monday, you've seen a lot of different kinds of charts. What is the most common mistake that people make in their submissions that keep a good visualization of the integration?
Were you able to hear that, or you want me to repeat it? Okay, so he said you've seen a lot of charts on Makeover Monday. What's the most common mistake that you've seen people make over and over again that you would say?
I'd say there's maybe two I can call out. So one is to overcomplicate things. People tend to try and cover everything that's in a data set. So using every field in some way in a chart. And it's perfectly fine, whether it's a large or a small data set, to just tackle a subset of the data, to not talk about everything, but just say, hey, this is the topic I'm going to focus on, but I'm going to do something really good with it. And the second point, and something I actually tweeted out earlier this evening, was that people often they visualize the data, but that's where they stop. And I would love to see what analysis they did. So if somebody reads an article, works with the data, builds a chart, at some point they must have gained some insights. They must have realized, oh, well, this is really interesting. And that's the bit I want to know. And I always encourage people to, include annotations or some sort of conclusions, calls to action, whatever they want to leave their audience with, and really write that down, make it obvious so that people see they do more. I mean, you can create great visualizations by dragging and dropping fields onto the canvas, but where the human adds the value is by adding those insights. And I think, Jeff, that is actually a statement that you had on the cover slide for this tug, that it's about insights, not about pictures. And yeah, that would be one of the key lessons.
Excellent. Any others? She didn't talk a whole lot about her book too, but it's awesome. The Makeover Monday book, I highly recommend it. If you haven't gotten a copy of it, it's got a lot of amazing examples from years. I mean, this project's been going on for a long time now, and so they have years of examples in the book from best in the community, and a lot of great advice. If you're looking for inspiration, great book. So definitely check that out.
Yes, we've had over 11,000 visits by now, and from 4,500 individuals. So there is a lot of content out there.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Ava, thank you very much. It's approaching midnight in your hotel room, so yes, we'll let you go back to sleep or go downstairs to party or wherever you're going to do. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.
Take care.